The first Locked On mock draft is complete. Who did the Pacers, me, get, and what trade did they make late in the first round? Plus, Pacers news of last week that we're way behind on here in Locked On Pacers. The Mad Ants are moving. Mathurin made All-NBA. Larry Bird is back around. There's so much to get to, and it's all coming today on the Locked On Pacers podcast.
You are Locked On Pacers, your daily Indiana Pacers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome in to another edition of the Locked On Pacers podcast, where we, of course, talk about the Indiana Pacers. As always, my name's Tony East. I cover the team for Forbes and SI, and today, wrapping up draft coverage. Just got back from the draft combine. Lots of fun scuttlebutt discussed on day 3, as well as the lottery itself. I am back home. Going to close out with Locked On's mock draft. We just wrapped this up. You'll hear about this from lots of other people throughout the network in the coming days, because we just got it done. But it's going to be really cool to kind of parse through it, because I did make a trade later. I picked at 7, and it was fun to go through and see who was still available at every single pick. We'll also talk about the Mad Ants moving to Fort Wayne. I'm way behind on talking about that news, but there's been a lot going on in Pacers land, as well as tons of other news, from Mathurin's AllRookie Team to Larry Bird to draft workouts. We'll get to it all today. So the Locked On group did a mock draft where the hosts of each team represented got to make the picks in every single spot. You can hear the whole thing on Locked On NBA Big Board once the full thing is out. I will discuss the Pacers' perspective of this and just the top part of this in general, because I am curious how people view this, the top of this draft. You know, I've talked to a fair share of people who are in and around the league to get kind of the gist of what's going on, but it's early in the process, and all this can change in the next month. And there's some question marks about teams at like 2, 3, and 6, and 9, and it's all very complicated. But in the Locked On draft, this kind of cemented a theory I had, where I kind of think there's 8 like pretty dang good prospects. Obviously, there's tiers of those 8 guys, but of that, I said 8 before the Pacers landed at 7. If you've been listening to the show, you heard it. And so picking 7 for the Pacers for me just came down to like which of those guys is still available. Some people will say 9, some will say 7, whatever. The Pacers are still at 7. So this was a fun exercise for me to see who could go early, what's going to be available, et cetera, for this. And the top 3 went as everybody expected, right? Wembanyama went 1, Scoot Henderson went 2, and Brandon Miller went 3. No trades until the 9th pick, right? So the top of this draft did not feature any trades. And you just heard Jonathan Givony talking on the Low Post, who is one of the most plugged in draft people in the league, about, perhaps Charlotte doesn't make a trade, perhaps the Blazers don't make a trade, right, for various reasons. And it'll be interesting to see who those teams pick. But I didn't think there'd be any trades ahead of the Pacers, and there weren't. The Rockets, Jackson Gatlin on Locked On Rockets, went with Amen Thompson. The Pistons, Kuka Hill, went with Asar Thompson. And then at 6, I was curious what would happen here, right? This is where I think for the Pacers, if both Thompson twins truly do go 4-5, things will get really interesting, right? Do the Pacers love somebody and want to pick them at 7, but they're worried about the Magic at 6? What is going to happen here? Because in general, if they look for more rebounding and defense, they could go with Jarris Walker. If they go for more of a defense-offense balance, perhaps it's Taylor Hendricks. If they want the best offensive threat, who's kind of a wing, they could go with Cam Whitmore, right? There's some interesting guys. That's kind of the perceived top 8 at the moment. I was curious who would go 6 in our Locked On mock draft. And our Locked On Magic host, Philip Osman-Reich, went with Grady Dick from Kansas. And I suppose for the Magic, that does make sense. That team needs shooting so bad, so bad. I was surprised to see that, though, because I don't think he makes a lot of sense for the Pacers. I mean, he's good. Grady Dick is good and can shoot and is better than people give him credit for, but not what the Pacers need in a way that Taylor Hendricks or Jarris Walker could be. And so they were both there. I went with Walker. I put him a little over Hendricks right now, but I'm not going to lie. I have not done a full homework assessment on either of them. I'm not going to commit to that on May 19th, but that is how the top 7 went of this mock draft. And so the Pacers getting Jarris Walker, who I know a lot of listeners of this show like. I've seen the comments and read the tweets. And then Whitmore went 8th to the Wizards. That makes sense. They need some young offensive firepower. And Hendricks went 9th to the Thunder, right? Like that seems like right now what the top 9 is perceived to be, with some mix-ins of some other guys here and there. But that made sense to me. This went about how I thought it would, and that was noteworthy to me too. Like to know what prospects to talk about, et cetera, et cetera. for example, next week on this show, for sure an episode individually on each Thompson twin and Overtime Elite in general. I talked to Asar at the Draft Combine this week, so that will be extremely cool to dive in more on him. If you were able to be there at 7, that could be a good pick. We'll see. So that all made sense to me. That was pretty standard stuff. I won't ruin all the rest of the picks because you can just listen to the Locked On show itself when the full thing comes out, and there's commentary from all of us on it. But what I will add is there were trade talks. One team hit me up about 7. It was the Knicks. They said, hey, is 7 available? I said, I'll listen. And they said, any interest in Julius Randle? And I said, nope. And that was it. So I suppose that doesn't really count as trade talks. But if you are interested in that as a fan of the Pacers listening to this, if you would be interested in Julius Randle, perhaps that's something that the Knicks would consider. I don't think the real Knicks would consider it, but I get why. I don't know. He just hasn't been the playoff performer the Knicks have needed him to be, but that doesn't seem like something that would actually happen in real life. Although, again, I understand that both of the Knicks' last 2 playoff appearances, he's gone from an all-star to very much not that in the postseason. Either way, don't think something that the Knicks would do or the Pacers would do. But that was the only trade talk that kind of swirled around pick number 7 in this draft. The Pacers don't pick again till late in the first round, obviously. It's a lot of sitting and waiting, and for me in real life case, driving back from the Windy City. And when I got to 26, I was kind of surprised. Somebody I would have picked went 25. Again, I'm not going to say who. I want you to listen to the full show. Somebody else I would have liked to pick went 16th. Somebody else I would have liked to pick went 18th. So one pick ahead of me was an important one. That was a little annoying. But the other 2 I kind of thought would be gone. So I had to improvise a little bit. And I thought, well, we were allowed to make trades. Why not try to get a veteran wing for the Pacers here? First contact for me was the Mavs, Reggie Bullock. Can the Pacers get Reggie Bullock for a late first? Is that even worth it from a value perspective to them? He's an okay player. He's an okay shooter. He's an okay wing player on an expiring contract. Is that something the Pacers would really want or not? I don't know. But that was the first contact I had. The Mavs hosts were a little wishy-washy. Meanwhile, via somewhere else, this one very much intrigued me. The Brooklyn Nets, Royce O'Neal for pick 26. I probably could have done 29. I was driving, so I didn't really haggle on these sorts of things. But Royce O'Neal was the offer from Brooklyn for pick 26, and I liked that one. Royce O'Neal can defend. He shot 39% from 3 this past season. Not high volume, but he almost took 6 a game. Like, he's a totally fine player. He was not very good in the playoffs. I'll be the first to admit that. He was awful in the playoffs. He shot 18% from 3 in the playoffs and like less than 20% from the field. But I thought for what the Pacers need, his defense would be valuable and helpful to them. And like Reggie Bullock, partial guarantee this coming season. I don't know if that's actually something that's realistic for the Nets to do, but if they are interested in moving off of Royce O'Neal, I think for a late first for the Pacers, who cannot bring in 5 rookies and definitely need some wing-ish depth or some forward-ish depth, Royce O'Neal was a fine choice. So it doesn't matter that it's 26 or 29, whatever. They're close enough in value that I was fine with it. And look, this exercise is silly. It's May 19th to do a mock draft with trades, but in general, think about that sort of value thing from a Pacers perspective. At 29, I went with a small draft crush for me and just picked Andre Jackson Jr. from UConn. Got to watch him at the Combine this week. He looked really good. If you listened to me and Jimmy Cook talk during the NCAA tournament on an episode of Locked On Pacers, I said, hey, I really like this guy. His stats definitely don't jump off the page, but his skills absolutely do. Oh my goodness. He just is like always in the right spot and like diving all over to make the right play and cutting and throwing the ball around like a madman in a good way. He led the title game in assists as a forward. Like, he's just really heady. I can't even describe it. I'm not sure what he'll be in the pros, but I'm very intrigued. So I picked him 29th. The headliner is at 7, though. Jarris Walker is the one there for me. We'll see how that ends up going. But for the full Locked On mock draft, that will be out soon-ish. I'm not sure what day to hear all the picks, all the rationales from us. But Royce O'Neal and Jarris Walker, I think. Good night for the Pacers. Let's talk about Pacers newsy stuff. The big one being this. I'm way behind talking about this on the show. In fact, this happened 11 days ago now. It was announced. The Pacers G League affiliate squad, the Mad Ants, they're moving out of Fort Wayne down to Noblesville. What's the details behind that? Plus many more news things to get to. It's all coming here on the Locked On Pacers podcast. Before we get to that, though, I got to talk to you guys about Bird Dogs. Bird Dogs makes clothing, and you absolutely have to try it. I have a pair of pants from them and a pair of shorts from them. And the headliners I could give you, if you care about these things in your clothing, this is basically all I care about. Fit and comfort they're perfect for you. And they're versatile too. That is less important to me, but very important to a lot of people. And a huge part of what makes Bird Dog so awesome. The fit part, they fit me really well. I look good in them. I feel great wearing them. They're very comfortable. They're like have stretchy fabric, but still not so stretchy that it looks baggy or terrible. And they're way comfier than my other shorts and pants. I wear them quite often. And they're really versatile, right? I can wear them to like go to practices when the Pacers or Fever have them, or on a date with my girlfriend, or when I'm hanging out with my friends. I don't have to change. Super easy, super versatile. It's great. In their ad read, college football nerds say they're the perfect pants for the dads that have that little bit of extra gut. And I agree, because I also have that little bit of extra gut. Makes them look and feel even better, and they're comfortable. I cannot stress enough how much they are my comfiest pair of shorts and pants. Their 7-inch seam shorts are fantastic. So try them today. Go to birddogs.com/LockedOnNBA, and when you enter the promo code LockedOnNBA, they'll throw in free custom Bird Dogs Yeti-style tumbler with every single order. So check them out. Go to birddogs.com/LockedOnNBA and enter that promo code LockedOnNBA. Thank you, as always, for making Locked On Pacers your first listen today and every single day. For your second listen, don't even think about convincing me to tell you another show. Locked On Nuggets. They're up 2-0 on the Lakers. Nikola Jokic is just the best player in the NBA right now, dominating everybody in this postseason. Just ran through Kevin Durant, now up 2-0 on LeBron. Beat his former president of basketball operations in the first round. What an awesome run. I mean, this could be so cool. I don't know what the perfect storybook for him is, but the Nuggets winning the title would be super cool, and he'd be a huge part of why they are dominating. Matt Moore and Adam Mares will have more at Locked On Nuggets about Denver being up 2-0 here in Pacerland. Big news item that happened at a time where I just kind of had a lot to do for podcasts on this show and couldn't really cover it at the moment it happened. And then it kind of just got lost to the sides, which was wrong of me to do. But this is important to talk about. The Pacers G League team, the Fort Wayne Mad Ants, are on the move. They are no longer going to be the Fort Wayne Mad Ants. They are no longer going to be Fort Wayne or the Mad Ants. Instead, they are moving to Noblesville. If you're not from Indiana, this will sound like nothing gobbledygook to you. Noblesville is a suburb of Indianapolis. It depends on what part of Indy you calculate the maps from, but 30 to 45 minutes north, kind of northeast-ish, I guess, to be more accurate. And the Mad Ants are moving. No longer going to play in Allen County War Memorial Fieldhouse up in Fort Wayne. Great building that I got to see a few times this year. And instead, we'll be playing in a new stadium constructed in Noblesville that will be completed, according to the release, hopefully by the 2024-25 season. The hopefully is from the release, not from me. That still would be great because it's closer to me, obviously. But that is, of course, a selfish take to say it's close to me. This sucks for the people of Fort Wayne, right? That's where I would like to start. Fans of the Fort Wayne Mad Ants who got to watch this team up close for years, and they won a title in this decade. And, you know, it's still been a fun fan experience. I had a great time when I would go up and watch them. Because the arena entertainment was very cool. There was Deal or No Deal there. I got to see all the mascots. Either doesn't matter what my experience was. The fans of Fort Wayne, though, it does. And that sucks to lose a fun team to watch, to lose a basketball team in your community for a very good minor league sports town, which sounds like a backhanded compliment. It's not. That's a good thing. That just sucks for those people. And it kind of came out of nowhere, right? They don't get a send-off season because this is another part of the release. The Mad Ants, will be playing in Cambridge this coming season while their new stadium is being built. So right downtown, which we'll get to the Pacers part of this, which the basketball side is good. But the first thing I'd like to say is I really feel for the people of Fort Wayne. This absolutely sucks to not have the team there anymore, to have them move, not quite overnight, but pretty close. I mean, the season's already over, but it's just no fun. So they're moving to Noblesville, and that is where the benefits come in, right? The north side of Indy is much closer. A lot of Mad Ants staff and players live in Indy now, so they don't have to make the 4-hour round trip to every game. They use the Pacers facilities a lot anyway. Like sometimes they practice right after the Pacers, so we'll just be hanging out doing our media stuff, and they'll be like in the elevator or walking around and all that kind of stuff. Like that part of the synergy is really valuable, I think, for both levels. And the Pacers have been good at using the Mad Ants in general. So for the Pacers specifically, and for the Mad Ants, really, this is a great move to be closer, right? To just have more synergy options available. And from another, like, luring talent perspective, like, players like to sign in good G League situations, knowing that the Pacers have called up a guy every year, basically, from the Mad Ants under their current regime, and that they're close and can use the facilities, right? When I talked to Elfrid Payton late in the G League season, I actually posted this on the YouTube feed for the Locked On Pacers podcast. he talked about the proximity to the Pacers facilities and being able to use the NBA gym being big for him in picking the Mad Ants as his G League home, right? So it does matter to players. It's important, and this synergy only grows for the Pacers and Mad Ants, who are now under an hour away from each other, have a new gym to play games in, and can allow, especially now that there's 3 two-way deals coming in the new CBA, like that could be 2 or 3 Pacers rostered players just playing right up the road, getting more reps. If a guy's injured, they can rehab easier. Like, from a purely basketball perspective and from a synergy perspective, this is a big deal for the Pacers, especially because the NBA said next year, not this season, but the one after, they would like to have all 30 teams have their own one-to-one G League franchise. And that kind of opens up avenues on how they can expand the G League or how they can kind of use the 2 leagues even with more synergy, because some teams have had like dual pairings in the past. The Madden used to be the feeder team for like the Hornets and the Pistons and the Bucks and the Pacers. That's obviously not the case anymore, but that's how the G League kind of was. They're getting away from that, and they'll be fully away from that next year. The synergy between NBA and G League is growing and growing and growing, and having the Mad Ants much closer is a big deal for the Pacers. Another part of this, the funding, $36.5 million. I can't remember exactly. I could just look on the sheet right in front of me. Coming from the city of Noblesville, $36.5 million towards the project, the arena, $5 million from the Pacers, and another $5 million coming from the Pacers for naming rights agreement for the actual arena once it's up and is constructed. It's kind of be on the east side of Noblesville. If you're from Indy or around there, the Finch Creek Park area. When I put it into maps on my phone the day they announced it, it was a 35-minute drive from Gainbridge, which I was standing literally right outside. So I thought that was shorter than I expected it to be, but you could take 69. So it's not a long drive. It's closer. That's the expectation. Scott Agnes reporting in Fieldhouse Files that the new team name will include the word Noblesville in front of the Mad Ants name, right? They will no longer obviously be Fort Wayne, but I don't think anybody knew what their new team name would be exactly. It's going to be the Noblesville something. I say something because it's changing. They're not going to be the Mad Ants anymore. Mad Ants, I believe, a tribute to General Anthony Wayne, who was a general up in Fort Wayne, and his nickname was Mad Anthony Wayne, so Mad Anthony. That is no longer relevant if you're not in Fort Wayne. So they'll change the name. I don't know what it will be. The problem is Oklahoma City's G League team's already the blue, and Grand Rapids G League team already the gold. So the Pacers can't do blue or gold. So the color options are gone. I don't know what they're going to be, but the basketball stuff you need to know. Mad Ants are moving from Noblesville to Fort Wayne. They'll play in Gainbridge this coming season and hope to play in their new building by 2024-25. New partnership with the new city. Mad Ants have been in Fort Wayne since 2007, and the synergy with the Pacers is obviously the big part of this for the NBA club. From a human perspective, good for players on the Pacers and Mad Ants. Terrible for the people of Fort Wayne to lose the team. If you have any questions about this, I have a story up on Pacers SI. Scott Agnes has 2 stories up on it on Fieldhouse Files, and you can even look up the press releases as they came out from the city of Noblesville. Their town council already approved it, as well as the Pacers themselves. So in the future, hey, you might see more Mad Ants content, though, because they're closer to me now. So that is something. And again, with the 3 two-way deals, perhaps those guys can get more shine in front of the fans. And if you live near this area, that's cool. You can now actually go see them a lot easier. Potentially see some Pacers players up close, right? That is one pro of the G League for those rehab assignments, 2-way contracts, all sorts of stuff like that. Could be extremely relevant. Couple more news things that aren't as lengthy or worthy of a whole segment I want to get to, including Larry Bird is back. A stunner from the Pacers' first draft workout. We'll talk about the workout itself. Larry Bird, Mathurin making all-rookie, and more to close out today's show. Thank you, as always, for making Locked On Pacers your first listen today and every single day. For your second listen, Locked On Lakers. Down 0-2 in the conference finals. Whew. Tough beating that Jokic guy. Tough winning in the altitude. LeBron had 3 just like, what the heck, kind of layup/dunks in the game. Locked On Lakers, Kamenetsky brothers. We'll take you through everything in La La Land. Let's close out with the final bit of Pacers news I wanted to get to and kind of transition out of the draft part of this as well. Although there will be some draft stuff here. Next week, we'll do 2 prospect breakdowns, Thompson twins, 2 free agency previews for Pacers players, and 1 other episode. And then after that, it'll be June. And in June, We'll kind of go bigger picture on free agency by position, continue to talk draft stuff. You know how it be. We're approaching all this stuff so rapidly. So closing out today's show, 3 things of news I wanted to make sure to cover on the show. First up, Bennedict Mathurin, first team all-rookie. Some people were wondering if he would make first team or second team. This has been out for a while, by the way. I'm way behind on this. This was announced on like May 8th or something like that. Mathurin, second best scorer in the class, almost 17 points per game. Finished 11th in both rebounding and assists. Obviously, was one of the best rookies for the first month and a half. The rest of the season, the other guys were as good or better than him and caught him. That would be, to me, Kessler, J-Dub, and Banchero, who caught him. I did not think Keegan Murray caught him, but the voters did. Mathurin was 5th and last in voting among the first team, but he made the first team. First Pacers rookie on first team all-rookie since Rick Smits. And Rick Smits was first team all-rookie in the first ever year where there were actually 2 all-rookie teams, right? And not something that the Pacers have had often in their history. But Mathurin makes it, first one since the 1980s, and is talented. Obviously, well-deserved honor for him. I think there was some questions about, did Ivy do enough to catch him? I didn't think so. So Mathurin, well-deserved first-team all-rookie spot, the second first-team all-rookie spot for the Pacers in the 2 all-rookie teams era. I think they had one more. I think Chuck Person made it first team when there was only 1 team. I might be missing one, but that is what my brain has right now. Oh, and Reggie, of course. And then the other part of the news is Andrew Nembhard did not make an all-rookie team. Very surprising to me. I thought he would be 9th or 10th in the mix. Here's the thing. He got the 10th most votes. He got 47 second-team votes. But Tari Eason got 44 second-team votes and 2 first-team votes. So Tari Eason beat Andrew Nembhard by 1 point because first-place votes are worth more than second-place votes. And so Tari Eason got 46 votes and Nembhard got 47, but Eason had the 2 first-place votes, so he gets the second-team spot, and Nembhard doesn't. Nembhard, I thought, was clearly one of the 10 best rookies this year. Started 63 times for the Pacers. Was a good defender. Made it to All-Star Weekend in the Rising Stars Challenge, but it was not to be. That was surprising. To me, the question I got a few times about Mathurin, no, this does not affect anything contractually for him. All-rookie has no influence on anything of the sorts. The only thing that does is Defensive Player of the Year, MVP, and All-NBA. And even that only matters if you've been in the year for 7+ years. So no contract impact for Mathurin, but historically, obviously fantastic to be one of the best 5 rookies in your first year in the league. Chris Duarte obviously made second team last year, so we'll see where Mathurin goes next season. But that is news item number 1. Number 2, he's back. Larry Bird was at the Pacers' first draft workout on May 12th. It's been about a week since then now. They haven't had a public workout at least since then. It's the first time I've seen Larry Bird at a Pacers event in a long time. 2 years, 3 years, maybe? I mean, maybe even longer than that. It's been a while since I've seen Larry Bird at this stuff. I didn't used to go to everything. This wasn't my full-time job until late last year. But Larry Bird was back. Obviously a huge figure within the Pacers franchise, right? The head coach of 2 of their most successful teams ever, leading them to the finals. They're president of basketball operations for 2 teams that made the conference finals. Just an overall figurehead for the franchise, even still, as he's in a consulting role now, although Scott Agness reported last year that he no longer had an active role with the team, but it would appear that perhaps he does now once again have an active role with the team if he's at draft workouts. Maybe he's just consulting or giving his opinion on various players, but Larry Bird was back in the building. Really cool to see. It was funny to hear Andre Jackson Jr. from UConn and Jaime Jaquez from UCLA be like, man, you see him and it's really cool. And then you're like, you try to forget because you have to work out and play your best, but it's hard to forget that Larry freaking Bird is sitting right over there. So Larry Legend was back with the Pacers for at least 1 workout. We'll see how much more he's around at future ones. Now the combine's over. I think we'll get some of those at some point. Maybe not again until June. We'll see. I can't remember exactly how the Pacers schedule for those shook out last year. But Larry Bird back at least for a day in the mix, providing his thoughts. And he, of course, did the job for a while himself. He ceded it to Pritchard for that 1 year when he had the health problems, and then again in 2017. But cool to see Larry Bird back again in the St. Vincent Center watching the draft workouts. And that is where we conclude our news today, is with those exact things, those draft workouts, because the Pacers did have their first one that day that I just said on the 12th, about a week ago today. 6 players, that's how most of those are. This one had kind of a varying degree of impact. 3 guys who could be kind of late first, early seconds, and 3 guys who I'm not sure they get drafted at all. We'll see where they end up. Kobe Brown could be picked out of Missouri. Andre Jackson Jr. from UConn certainly could be picked. I picked him, like I said in the first segment, in the mock draft. And Jaime Jaquez should be drafted as well. And then Arthur Kaluma from Creighton, a Lithuanian player whose last name is Levicius. I'm not going to try to pronounce his first name. And then Grant Nelson from North Dakota State was the first group. Again, there's usually 8 to 10 of these a year, right? At least the ones that media are allowed to attend and ask questions of players to. Obviously, the Pacers do way more than that, but that's the part of it that you'll know about and that we'll get to know about. They did the first one before the Combine, which I thought was cool. Obviously, the lotto level guys don't really go anywhere until they know where they could end up, but that was the first one. Jaime Jaquez described it as pretty competitive, more defensively kind of minded and focused, right? Andre Jackson Jr. also kind of talked about it being, more of a battle than some of the other ones he's done. He had worked out for the Nets and Celtics previously, so expect more of that from these workouts for the Pacers, but they're underway, which of course, that is how the draft prospect part of this goes. I don't think I will do a segment on every player who works out or the interviews or things like that, but after maybe 3 groupings, I'll talk about I'll update you guys on who is and isn't working out for the team, all sorts of stuff like that as that information comes in, but it's still only been one so far in the process. And remember, I think people lose sight of this a lot, right? They see the 6 players that I just said and go, why are they here? They're not going to be picked 7th. What a waste. Well, first of all, they have other picks than 7. But second of all, if you can, as a franchise, reasonably, you should talk to every prospect who could be in the league, even if you have no intention of drafting them, because once they're on another team, you can't really talk to them. But getting face-to-face time with them, getting them in your building, knowing more about them, knowing what they're about is so valuable 5 years from now when maybe their team is trading them. Maybe they're a free agent, right? You never know. But having that information when you can and when it's feasible and when they're going around and meeting with teams, you absolutely should do as many as you can just to get that information about as many guys as possible, right? So that is a big part of draft workouts. Even beyond the draft itself is getting information, collecting intel on players who are going to be in the NBA, right? Knowing as much about them as possible is, of course, extremely valuable. I hope I didn't miss anything on this front. There's been so much news and stuff going on around the league recently between the lottery and the draft combine, and Halliburton got an all defense vote for some reason. I'm not going to go through that, but yeah, that is the latest on the Pacers. That's my transition out of daily draft stuff. The lottery's done, the draft combine's done. There will still be draft shows. So the plan going forward, free agency previews for every Pacers player who's a free agent. I already did O'Shea Brissett. We'll probably lump together the two-way guys and then the vets in George Hill and James Johnson. Draft prospect breakdowns and free agency previews by position. What could the Pacers want at 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5? And then obviously mixed in along the way, various other important topics to cover about the Pacers offseason, their cap situation. We already talked about some CBA rule stuff, but just general team building stuff. What they could be learning from teams in the finals, all sorts of stuff. The typical offseason chatter. It's all coming here on the Locked On Pacers podcast. Listen every day. Become an everydayer of Locked On Pacers. So next week, the Thompson twins will be under the radar. Got the guests lined up for that already, as well as the 2 player free agency episodes. You won't want to miss them. It's going to be super fun. So thank you guys a ton for listening today. Have a fantastic weekend. We'll see you on Monday.